Hello, welcome back everyone. This is Al Spectra, and I'm here today based on popular request to talk about how I managed to win against General, who is one of the top players in the Land of Empires. And you can see in Warzone 2 here, I managed to secure the first position. And I think my win is primarily attributed to three reasons. The reason number one, which is probably the least significant reason, is the popularity difference. Now, the popularity difference, as everyone know at this point, it contributes to a stat difference. And when the stat difference is already so significant between you and a much stronger opponent, you really do not want to make that gap even bigger. So if we look at the stat difference here, I am about 400 to 500% lower in stats across the board. And if you were not able to balance the support level between you and your opponent, for example, if General had 90% support, whereas I only had 10% support, he would be sitting at around 400% all troop attack and defense, whereas I would be sitting around 270%. So once again, when the stat difference is already so big, you really don't want to make it even bigger. And that will just reduce your chances even further. And how all attack works is that, or at least how I believe it to work, is that it is a direct addition to the rest of your stats. Meaning, if you have 1500 infantry attack, for example, you add that 1500 to 321%. So now you have 1821%. I don't believe it to be a multiplier, otherwise it would be completely overpowered and fairly evident. So based on past performance, I believe that these are additive. But back to the point, you really don't want to make the stat gap bigger. And I got the support of my alliance, thankfully. So I was able to balance the level of support between me and General. Now, the second reason why I managed to win, and probably the most important reason, is the hero setups. So what General here is running is a full Season 6 team in Team 1 with their own armas, a full Season 5 team in Team 2, and a full Season 5 team in Team 3 with, a full Season 4 team with Season 5 armas, which is essentially a full Season 5 team. And as some of you might have seen in my previous videos, I demonstrated that Season 6 heroes are significantly stronger than Season 5, and especially prior to Season 5. Actually, in my videos, I showed that they were significantly stronger than Season 5 as well. And this is because the infantry hero of Season 6 is able to deal very heavy damage to the backline archers of the enemy, and that is not something any of the other seasons can do. And one thing that Season 6 is also very good at is resisting Titanos damage. So Windstrider, as I mentioned in some of my early videos, Windstrider was very strong at damaging backline archers, and Windstrider stacking in the context of rallies it defines the difference between a win and a loss. Sadly, that is no longer the case with Season 6, because they have skills that enhances the HP of all your units. Windstrider is no longer able to hit your units as hard. And by HP, I mean final HP. And that is likely more a multiplier than a simple addition. So for example, if you have 1000% HP and this hero gives 200% final HP, then you might end up with 3000% HP, which is quite ridiculous. So that will kind of reduce damage by like a third or 2/3. And that is just one skill. There are multiple skills in the context of Season 6, which reduces damage, therefore making Titanos damage rather insignificant. And that is not a bad thing, because I felt that Titanos damage was becoming way overpowered. Now with Season 6, Awaken, like previously resonated Titanos, are useful once again, just simply for the stats that they contribute. So the second mistake here is that General did not run 2 Season 16. And that was really my first indication that it was possible to beat him if I were to run 2 Season 6 versus his only 1 Season 6. So that is point number 2. And point number 3 finally comes down to really the mechanics around Apex and Legendary Arena, which probably not many people know about. And now I will give a rundown of how they work. So in Apex Arena, I won't be able to go back to the matchmaking process, but as everyone knows, you have one side and then another side. So you have the top 16 divided into two sides. What happens is that in Apex, in the arenas, there will be the attacking side and the defending side. So the attackers versus defenders is not just a concept that exists in open field PvE or PvP. It also exists in the arenas. So the left side team will tend to be the attacking team. I should say the left upper side. Whereas the right lower side will be considered the defending team. Meaning that if the top team here attacks the second team here, the top team will be the attacking team, and the bottom team will be the defending team. And if a team to the left attacks a team to the right, it means that the team to the left will be the attacking team, and the team to the right will be the defending team. Now, why is that important? One characteristic of Season 6 heroes is that they are very good at timing out. The infantry itself has very strong survivability, meaning that even under heavy onslaught by either the cavalry plus infantry or the infantry itself, they will be able to survive long enough to time out the battle. Now, I'm making it very simple. There are actually at least two mechanics around their survivability, one of which is probably a bug. But I'll just leave it at that and say that the infantry and Season 6 overall is very good at timing out a fight. And what happens when a fight times out? What happens is that the defending team will be able to move on to the next round, while the attacking team completely dies. So if I show the first result here, I think if the battle didn't time out, I would still be able to win. But let's pretend I wouldn't be able to win. When I time him out, because I'm on the defending side, his heroes will die instantly, whereas my heroes will be able to move on to the next round. And same thing happened here. Just look at his troops. His troops are still alive. His infantry is still alive. But I was able to time him out. In this case, I was quite lucky to time him out. And his team simply died. Because it is a little imbalanced between defenders and attackers, where the defenders have the advantage of moving on to the next round, whereas the attacker cannot. So that is point number one in the third reason why I was able to win against General. And the second benefit of the defending team, in other words, point number two, is that the defending cavalry is able to hit first. So his damage is able to land first before a lot of the calculations are involved. Meaning that simply by running 47,000 cavalry on the defensive side, I was able to kill all of his archers. So let's just watch this fight. This would not be possible if I was on the right side or the attacking side. But because I was on the defending side, my cavalry was able to instantly kill all 52,000 of his archers. So let's move forward a bit here. As everyone knows, in the first 10 to 15 seconds or so, neither sides will take damage because that is simply how Season 6 works. But look at when my cavalry unleashes his ultimate now, and look at his archer, 51,000 damage. All his archer died instantly. And I was confident I could do that because when I was fighting against Memory, who is from server 17, a very strong player by the way, we discovered that, that was when we discovered that the defending cavalry had that kind of advantage against the archers. When I was fighting against Memory, I was only running 5,000 cavalry for whatever reason. But against General's setup, because he was attacking and he was using a lot of archers, I knew that I couldn't keep his archers alive for very long. I had to kill them quickly. Otherwise, his archers would be able to buff the infantry enough to the point that his infantry will be able to kill my infantry. So I used enough cavalry to one-shot his archers. And in this case, thankfully it worked out. Now, if you were to observe the rest of my team, I didn't use Season 6 as my primary team. I used Season 4 Kellerman, Season 5 Quinn, and Season 5 Lisbeth. And there's a very important reason for that, and that is for their awakening skills. Because their awakening skills are not replaced by the armor itself, meaning that if your awakening skill is tied to your rage skill, the awakening skill will actually be replaced. Well, it'll actually simply disappear once you equip an armor, because you will have a completely different rage skill. But if your awakening skill is separate from your rage skill, for example, in the case of Quinn, Kellerman, and Lisbeth, you get some very useful buffs. So in the case of Kellerman, you get a 30% chance of disarming your opponents for 2 seconds. In the case of Lisbeth, you get more damage reduction. And these are both final damage reductions, and that's very useful. And finally, in the case of Quinn, you reduce the damage, the incoming normal attack damage from your enemy by 30%. So all of these combined will enhance the survivability and timeout ability of your team. And I would attribute the combination of that to how I was able to survive his first team, which is also his primary as well as his strongest team. And now versus the second team, a very interesting thing is that when I was playtesting Season 6 versus Season 5, Michael was actually very bad versus Season 6. His ultimate, what it does is that it reduces the damage of cavalry and infantry by 80 to 90%. But when I was playtesting about 2 days ago, it simply didn't work. So I went into this fight assuming that it didn't work, which was why I was using quite heavy cavalry here, because I was planning to use my cavalry to just wipe out his archers instantly, like what I did in the previous round. But because somehow Michael's ultimate skill, the debuff, got fixed in probably the past 24 hours, I went into this fight at a pretty big disadvantage, not knowing that. If I knew that Michael skill was fixed against Season 6, I would have probably run like 5,000 cavalry maximum. And this fight would have been nowhere near this close. Admittedly, I got very lucky here. But on the other hand, he also got lucky that that Michael's skill got fixed in the past 24 hours. Because before that, Michael would use his skill, and the Season 6 infantry damage, the Season 6 cavalry damage, they wouldn't change. They would still be hitting hard like trucks. But now, once Michael's skill lands, the cavalry damage gets reduced by 80 to 90%, and therefore the archer was not able to kill. Therefore my cavalry was not able to kill his archer, which almost led to a loss. And finally, the battle which determined the result, which is round 3 here. He ran a pretty standard composition. I wouldn't even call it a bad composition, but because we had Season 5 for so long, the optimal composition of Season 5 was very well playtested. And that is Michael, Quinn, and Hanzo. So if we were still in Season 5, Hanzo would be replaced by Lisbeth because it's simply better. But because we're now in Season 6, the next best option is to use Hanzo himself. And let's just play this fight. So despite overwhelming stats, my composition, which was much better than his, by the way, because cavalry is simply useless here. So I ran primarily infantry and archer. My Hanzo was able to deal a lot of damage to his Michael. So Kellerman plus Michael armor. And I want everyone to observe how much damage my Hanzo was able to deal to his Michael. So one characteristic about Season 5 is that they are fairly weak versus the archers. So Michael, although he can suppress the infantry and cavalry, he cannot suppress the archers. So the archers is actually very important in Season 6 fights. In Season 5 fights. And you can see how much the stats mattered here. Despite my vastly superior team composition, so hero as well as troop setup, he was almost able to beat my team. So just look at how low my Michael got in this fight. His archer, if his archer was able to kill my Michael right there, his archer would be able to kill my Hanzo, most likely, because my Hanzo's next ultimate wasn't going to hit until now, and probably just 2 shots. His archer would be able to destroy my archer in 2 shots. So yeah, that's pretty much a summary of how I managed to win against General despite heavy disadvantage in stats. I think overall this is impossible if he paid any attention to his setup as well as the number of troops he used. But because he ran only 1 Season 6 team and I ran 2 Season 6 team as well as better formations, I was able to come out ahead. So I hope everyone enjoyed this video and my analysis, and I'll see everyone in the next video. Bye bye.